A landlord may lose his home to auction due to the eviction moratorium. I'm Tony, and this is Real Estate Investing and Landlord News. All right, so I have an article for you today, and it's about a landlord whose home faces the auction block. But before I get into that article, go ahead, hit that like and subscribe button. Maybe leave a comment down below and let me know what you want to see on this channel. I'm going to work to keep bringing you great news about the eviction moratorium and other things that are of interest to landlords. So, this article comes from HeraldTribune.com, and it says, Northport homeowner says COVID-19 may cost him his property as it goes to auction. I've been telling you for a while now that there are consequences when landlords aren't able to collect their rent from tenants, okay? It's not like, we have these big piles of money or reserves that can last for years on end if tenants stop paying rent. A lot of landlords have mortgages. They still have to pay their insurance, their taxes, and for all the maintenance. Sometimes they have to pay for utilities and capital expenditures. And, you never know all of the expenses until you actually become a landlord, and then you realize that, hey, this isn't all about cash flow, okay? So let's get into this article, see what it says. Kenneth Barrett fell behind on his property taxes in 2019, but the Northport homeowner had a plan to get back on track. He thought he had a steady tenant in place for the property at 5798 Kenwood Drive. The $900 a month he charged for the 1,262 square foot home should have supplemented his income enough to pay off the back taxes. Then came COVID-19. His tenant lost her job and the rent stopped coming. I haven't been paid a dime since March 2020, he said. Well, yeah, that's kind of a bad situation to be in. Now, I have to admit that, first of all, he already owed taxes on this place before the pandemic began. So he already was in some sort of financial issue, and that only got exacerbated when the pandemic came and then his tenants stopped paying rent. And so it says he hasn't been paid a dime since March 2020, so he's already gone 15 plus months without rent. And yeah, this is absolute disaster for this guy, it looks like. So my suggestion would be, though, not to let yourself get behind on your taxes in the first place, okay? So by him not paying his taxes in time, he's only made things worse for himself. But let's see what else this says. Sarasota County is scheduled to sell off his property at auction on July 20th unless he files for bankruptcy, something Barrett is hesitant to do at the age of 66. The federal moratorium on evictions has helped keep tenants in place in the face of an unprecedented public health crisis, but as renters fell behind on monthly payments, landlords still have had mortgages and taxes come due. Battered by the pandemic, landlords like Barrett, who manage just one home or a small deck of properties, face the risk of losing their only assets, with programs mostly geared to instead help their renters. Yeah, the programs, they're set up to help the tenants and not the landlords, even though the landlords are the ones who are owed the money. And this guy, he owns one property. That's what the article says. So he really is the definition of a small mom and pop landlord. The problem is, though, that, he didn't make sure that he kept paying those taxes. And now it looks like the county itself is going to be selling his property on auction, probably due to those back taxes that he owes. Now, at the age of 66, he probably was planning on using this house as a retirement income or, to supplement his retirement. But yeah, those plans are out the door, and it's not 100% the fault of the eviction moratorium, but man, it certainly did not make things any better. And then he ended up with tenants in there who are not good. So you got to wonder, what kind of tenant screening did you do on these people? It doesn't look like they've made any effort at all to pay in over 15 months. And considering the fact that, the economy is coming back and, there's been unemployment supplements, there's been stimulus checks, the fact that they've paid you nothing tells me that you did not have the best tenants in this property possible. So, yeah, a lot of the blame for this situation does fall on this landlord, but it was exacerbated by bad policy in terms of the eviction moratorium. If foreclosures and evictions had been stopped, why haven't auctions been stopped as well, Barrett said. The federal moratorium on evictions and foreclosures will expire at the end of July unless the federal government extends it further, something it has done 4 times already. While rental assistance is available from the federal government, the application process must be initiated by tenants, and timeframes for distribution range widely, landlords told the Herald Tribune. Yep, that's it. Now, the federal government, they could very well extend this moratorium again. I know what the Supreme Court said, right? But, do you really think that they're going to just take the Supreme Court said what they said for their word for it? I mean, no, they could very well just say we're going to extend it anyway in spite of what the Supreme Court says, okay? And the other thing is, talking about that rental assistance, like I've said before, there are the governments that are being put in charge of, or the organizations being put in charge of the rental assistance, are delivering it so slowly that landlords had to suffer for months on end while they've waited to get their first payment or to get any payment. And sometimes they haven't gotten anything at all. So, yeah, I mean, the rental assistance isn't helping a lot of landlords, including this guy here. So, Jerry Holmes, president of the Landlord Association of Sarasota and Manatee, said that people think of landlords as having deep pockets, easily able to weather when the rent checks stop coming. That's not the case for many of my members, she said. People don't realize that many landlords live paycheck to paycheck, just like other people. Yep, that's the truth, okay? A lot of landlords aren't upper income. A lot of them are like this guy here who's facing, either the choice between having his property auctioned off or bankruptcy. I mean, that's a terrible option. And, we're talking about a 66-year-old guy here. So it's not like, he can all of a sudden go out and start working 2 or 3 jobs to save his property. No, he's pretty much just going to get screwed over. I mean, this is a bad situation overall for landlords throughout the entire country. So, yeah, the article kind of goes more into how his house ended up on the auction block. And it really was a process of steps. And, he should have taken action before now to make sure this didn't happen. But, I'll go ahead and read through this just so you know what not to do, essentially, the problems that he had and why, his house ended up on the auction block in the first place. When a homeowner falls behind on property taxes, the county tax collector has the option to sell the debt it is owed at an auction. The person or company that buys that debt pays the taxes the homeowner did not, and a tax certificate is issued. The homeowner then has 2 years to pay off the debt plus interest. If that doesn't happen, the tax certificate holder can initiate an auction where the property is sold to the highest bidder, according to the Sarasota County Tax Collector's Office. After the property is sold, the debt owed to the tax certificate holder is paid off from the proceeds, and anything left will be turned over to the previous owner of the property. Barrett must pay $8,985 before the auction on July 20th. So, yeah, that's it. $8,985 is what separates this guy from losing his property and not losing the property. And, that doesn't seem like a huge sum of money, but for a landlord that only owns one property and who has, not received any rent from these tenants, that is an insurmountable challenge. So I really do feel for this landlord, and I hope that other landlords don't end up in this same situation.